Hello viewers, welcome to Vedanta Explains. Today we are going to discuss about an interesting topic which ranges from as small as smartphones it exists in computers and also in supercomputers. So you guys keep on guessing. I'll give you hints. Like what happens behind the screen when you open a camera? How does your mobile phone know to open that application? If you open your file manager, how does your mobile phone know to display all the internal storage files and external storage files? How does this happen? It is, to give a hint, it's the core of any electronic device. And so if you got it right, the answer is kernel. And in this video, we are going to discuss more about it. And we'll also discuss what are the types of kernels we have and what type of kernels you have in Android phones and iOS phones and Windows phones. Yeah, let's dive in.
Generally, many people have misconceptions about kernel. So hopefully through this presentation, they'll get clear. So kernel is the heart of any operating system. It acts as the lowest level. And if you need to access any app which needs resources, computer resources, then it has to go through this kernel. It's the first program that gets loaded after the bootloader system. So as you can clearly see here, kernel acts as an interface or a bridge between the hardware and the software. Since our computer only accepts instructions and we need software to perform it. So the kernel is actually the brain of it. And kernel has a hand over like many essential parts of operating system, like the memory management technique, the CPU resources, the file management, all the major essential things a computer performs. So if there's any interrupt, like two programs want to use a resource, then which program gets to use how much amount of resources. So all these things kernel is going to handle. A human can also do this, but an efficient and optimal way is usually done by the kernel. And hence, yes, it's the brain of the system. So we have two different types of kernels, the monolithic kernel and microkernel. So I'll explain this using a real life example. Like generally when you go to a restaurant and there's this buffet system and a la carte. So buffet system is like the monolithic kernel where all the dishes will be at one place, and here all the code will be at one place. So it's very huge. And the microkernel is where you get to order, and basically you'll have the starters or the water, like essential things over there settled up for you, but you need to order the extra features. So in the microkernel, the system calls and process transitions that will be done will always be there, but if you want to have many or extra resources, then you have to add it. So microkernel main essentially they have designed microkernels is a small short area, because in the monolithic kernel there are like 15 million lines of code, and in the microkernel it's a very short storage space. And in the late 1992, there's a famous author called Andy, and he predicted that the future belongs to the microkernels, because essentially we're going to use only the important ones, because we don't need the whole system and unnecessary things. Because in the 15 million lines of code, most of that are device drivers, and many of them, like in many cases, you don't need them. So Andy had this prediction. So what do you think presently we are using, monolithic or microkernel? As you may guys, as Andy have predicted, that micro is going to win, but there's still many, and we are using monolithic kernels. I'll show you why we are using that. I'll give you the reasons. So this is the main two difference between the monolithic and microkernel. You can see the architecture of both. So to demonstrate the system calls, I'll give you an example. Like to access the file management in the monolithic kernel, the application will go through the application level, and to open a file, there's one is called the file management file system, and it goes back to the application. There's one context switch between the application and the kernel. But whereas in the microkernel, to open a file, you need to go to the application, then file system, then through the kernel hardware, and back to the file system, and it has all the way to application. So you can observe that there are many system calls here and context switches. It usually takes a lot of time in this microkernel uh, to open a file, simple file. This is just a small example I've given you. Then if you want to access really files, then it needs generally more system calls, because generally file system will usually go through this device drivers or IO devices. You need to go to the file system, then the microkernel, then back to the device drivers, then back to the hardware, then to the application. So it's clearly the game changer is this monolithic kernel, and hence today also we are using monolithic kernel in our Linux operating system, and we'll show you the different types of operating systems in the next slide. So there are three different types of kernels. The first one is the Linux kernel, which we use in our Android mobile phones, and next to the Windows NT kernel and the Darwin kernel, which iOS uses. So generally like in some phones have battery optimization, like they give you a large amount of battery but the performance is quite low, but other phones they have better performance but the quite battery is quite low. So all these things can be done through the kernel, the battery optimization or the memory techniques, as I've already told you. So you can also meddle out with these things, like if you go to the developer tools in your mobile phones and you can vary these things. So kernel affects your daily life processes, and like since many of us need a battery, and these things are essentially done by the kernel. So now we understand the importance of kernel in any operating system. Like it ranges in any system we need kernels. And yes, thank you. Like if you have any doubts, I'm leaving you my email ID behind here, and you can mail me out. Yes, thank you.